Well, I'm excited about today's show. It kicks off the new year in 2011, and many of us have made New Year's resolutions to look and feel better. And a great place to start is by choosing natural, non-toxic products that we use on our skin. My guest today shares my passion for using natural makeup and body care products. Siobhan O'Connor is the co-author of the wonderful book called No More Dirty Looks: The Truth About Your Beauty Products and the Ultimate Guide to Safe and Clean Cosmetics. She is senior editor at Prevention Magazine, the leading health magazine with over 11 million monthly readers. Siobhan is also passionate about sustainability, women's health, and food. Welcome to Your Supernatural Life, Siobhan.
Thank you so much for having me.
So I read in your great book that you became aware of how toxic our beauty products actually are when you decided to straighten your hair at a salon using a product called Brazilian Blowout, and you were shocked to learn it contained formaldehyde. So tell us about your experience and how that motivated you to write your book.
Sure, yeah. You know, it's sort of a funny thing. People keep asking us, is that really how it happened? And it is.
Mm-hmm.
So let me tell you what happened. Alexandra and I are, we're co-authors. We're best friends. We live on opposite sides of the country. I'm in New York and she's in Los Angeles. And whenever we'd visit each other, we would try to do sort of fun, nice things together, either go to a yoga retreat or get massages or something like that. And this one time we decided we were going to try this new hair treatment called the Brazilian Blowout, which has since come under a lot of fire and gotten a lot of attention. But at the time there wasn't really much known about it. So we called the salon. We asked them like a couple of questions, not many, to be honest.
Mm-hmm.
And they said, keratin's the thing in your hair, so it's really good for it. So, okay, off we go to this posh salon to get, what we thought was something like a healthy hair treatment that was going to make it smooth and silky and wonderful.
Right, because that's how they promote it, and they have all the pictures,
Yeah.
and the hair looks beautiful, right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I still understand to this day why women still run to the salon for this treatment. For one, it actually works, quote unquote, in that it makes your hair silky smooth for quite a while. But what we found while we were sitting there getting this sort of solution flat ironed onto our hair was our eyes were watering. We were coughing uncontrollably. They actually gave Alexandra goggles at one point. And, looking back, we're like, what were we thinking? But we didn't even think it was that strange at the time, which, that sets off some alarm bells for me now, which is now that I know how as much as I do know, I'm like, how did we not think that this was sort of a bizarre thing?
Right. It brings back memories of me when I was a child and my mother used to perm my hair and it smelled horrible. So, but anyway, go ahead.
The smell lasts.
Yeah.
So we got our hair. It looked very, very pretty, and then for several weeks it continued to look nice, but it still smelt kind of funny. And we joked, we called it toxic mole because it sort of smelled like a spicy chocolate sauce, but it was really quite toxic smelling. And we started doing a little research, and down the sort of rabbit hole we went, and it was just sort of one thing after another. It started with the formaldehyde in our Brazilian Blowout, but then the next thing we knew, we were looking into what's in our shampoo and what is in our moisturizer and all of these products that we use every single day, thinking we were taking good care of our skin and our hair. And all of these things were loaded with ingredients that have, some pretty sketchy data about their safety, and on top of that, don't really work very well. So, once we sort of figured that out, we thought, listen, we're living pretty clean lives. We're socially responsible. We're environmentally responsible. And if we don't know about this stuff, then probably a lot of other women don't either. So we decided to write a book.
Excellent. And so let's talk about the safety, because I think most people think if it's on the store shelves that it's safe, but actually the FDA doesn't really test the products. Why don't you talk about that?
Yeah, so I think it's a good point. A lot of us, there is a sort of consumer assumption that when you buy a product that someone other than the person who's making it has tested it for safety. A lot of people maybe don't know what the FDA does or doesn't do, but that would be the agency that we thought might be the one sort of testing products. But the way that the cosmetics laws are set up, which were written in 1938, the FDA, whether it wishes it did or didn't, it does not have the authority to really regulate the cosmetics industry. It regulates it in name only. It does not test products before they go to the shelves. Companies that produce products are not required to inform the FDA that they even exist, let alone the ingredients that they're using in their products. They don't need to provide the FDA or any other health agency with ingredient lists or safety data about those ingredients.
Right. It's really
And
shocking, right? I mean, it's just
shocking.
And it's disturbing, and it makes me angry. And,
yeah.
And that's why your book is great, because you talk about alternatives. And they're out there.
Absolutely.
There's some great alternatives out there.
They sure are. We say in the book, and it's really true, that all of the products that we've switched to, with one exception, which I will tell you about in a second, we prefer them. Like, hands down, we prefer them. My shampoo, my conditioner, everything that I put on my face and my body every single day, I think outperforms the things that I was using before.
Well, let's talk a little bit about, the hair, because it's such a hot topic. I mean, my hair, I know, has changed over the years, and hormonally, it's gotten really curly and frizzy, and so it's been kind of a little bit of a nightmare. And I was actually thinking about getting a keratin treatment, and then I read about the formaldehyde. But are you saying that all keratin treatments are bad?
So listen, we don't know. There are a lot of companies out there producing, sort of different versions, copycat versions of the thing that we got. There are a lot of different ways that it's done. What we do know is that some of the ones, even the ones listed as formaldehyde-free, when taken to the lab, were shown to contain quite high concentrations of formaldehyde.
Wow.
So, it's buyer be very aware when it comes to this stuff.
Right.
It's really hard to get straight information, but the little that we do know says that, if something is being marketed explicitly as formaldehyde-free and it contains formaldehyde, we should all be a little bit concerned.
Absolutely. And, let's talk about the scalp for a minute, because I think maybe people are not really aware how porous the scalp is. And sometimes we, will go have hair coloring, for example, and we'll put you under a dryer, with a plastic bag over your hair, and what does that do? It's absorbing all these chemicals that we're not even aware of.
Yeah, I mean, it's funny. We were shocked to find out that, our scalps are one of our most porous parts of our bodies. Things penetrate our scalp, and the skin is it's porous. So it absorbs so many of the things that we put on it. An ingredient like sodium lauryl sulfate, as an example, which is in most conventional shampoos, either that or, a variation on that, that ingredient, that's one of those chemicals that penetrates the skin readily. So not all the chemicals that are in cosmetics actually migrate inside the body, but sodium lauryl sulfate, as one example, goes right in. So that's sort of alarming.
Yeah.
And then you look at hair dyes, and you're looking at phenylenediamine and coal tar, and I know on the radio it's sort of confusing to hear these complicated names of things, but suffice to say, carcinogens, petroleum derived ingredients, that are being painted onto your scalp, and then you're put under a dryer.
Right. So are you saying that, I know you said you switched to all natural, the hair dye for me is like the last holdout, because I'm in my 50s now, and I think if I let myself go to my natural color, it would really look much older. And so what do you recommend? Because I go to a salon, and she says no ammonia, it comes from Italy. And so I'm thinking, well, it's a little bit safer, because I know in Europe they're a little bit more stringent about what ingredients are going into their products.
They're a lot stricter about carcinogens, and about reproductive toxicants. So these are things that can, cause birth defects, essentially, or carcinogens obviously are things that are linked to cancer. So in Europe, they're a lot stricter about that. I don't know about hair dye. The problem with salons is that you can't actually read the ingredients. They're not usually made publicly available, and I think you'd get a sort of funny look if you asked to see them.
No, I do. I ask, and I.
You do?
Yes, absolutely.
Well, you're a better woman than I. I wrote the book, and I don't ask.
Oh.
So I mean,
no, I ask Right. When I go to a restaurant, for example, I will ask, what kind of cooking oil do you use? I'm very particular. So don't be shy about asking it. Then people, I don't care what kind of looks I get. It's important what I'm taking in. So
I absolutely agree. It's funny for me. So I wrote in the book about how I tried to get, I'm blonde, and naturally kind of a dark blonde, gets darker as they get older, of course. And in the book, and I'm a highlighter. I've always been like a 3 times a year kind of. I would get highlights 2 or 3 times a year. And during the course of writing the book, I decided to go for these like quote unquote like more natural. Of course, there's no such thing as a natural like highlight to your hair, but unless you're using lemon juice, which I most certainly was not. So I went for these sort of low tox highlights, and it was a colossal failure. It looked terrible. It was super stripy. It just looked like a disaster. So I say this in the book, I ended up going back to the guy that I always used to go to and getting, the conventional highlights done, which I still do on occasion, very infrequently. And, like you say, you're not ready to go gray. I understand, we understand that. We're not zealots. Our feeling is more so that people don't, when it comes to, say smoking cigarettes, we know that this is not good for us. So if we're still doing it, okay, at least the public has been informed, right?
Right.
You know that you should drive with a seatbelt on. There are certain things that we sort of know. When it comes to cosmetics, women just don't, they have no idea that what goes on them can get in them.
Right.
And that once it gets in them, it can have health effects, to say nothing of, what it does to the environment.
Right. So we're going to we're going to take a short break. And when we come back, let's talk about some of the ways it's impacting our health, the environment's health, and maybe you can give us share a couple of your great recipes, the simple recipes from your book. Okay, so we'll be right back.